Some inherit a kingdom, others inherit what is left. Welcome back to the Grey Havens Hour. In the last episode, a kingdom fell beneath the sea. Not suddenly, but slowly, inwardly, long before the waves came. Númenor broke itself, and what remained crossed the sea in fragments. Today, we turn to the man who carried those fragments. Not as a conqueror, not as a ruler crowned in certainty, but as a father, a survivor, a king who would stand, even when everything around him had already fallen. The ships do not arrive in triumph. They came out of storm and shadow, driven by a wind that carried both memory and loss. Grey waters behind them, an empty horizon where a kingdom had once stood. Elendil stepped onto the shores of Middle-earth, not as a king restored, but as a man who had watched his whole world die. That matters, because it changes how we understand everything that follows. He did not begin with power, he begins with absence. And yet, even here, something has not been lost. Not the kingdom, not its power, but the quiet conviction that what was given must not simply disappear. That even in ruin, something must remain. No towers, no courts, no inheritance intact, only what could be carried. His sons stood beside him, Isildur and Anarion, not as princes of a living realm, but as heirs of something broken. And somewhere, among what they had brought with them, was a memory that could not be drowned. The memory of what Númenor had been, and what it had become. There is a quiet weight in Tolkien's survivors. They do not speak loudly of what they have endured. They do not define themselves by loss, but they carry it. And in Elendil, that burden becomes the beginning of kingship. They did not rebuild Númenor. That is the first thing to understand. It would have been easy, even natural to try, to raise towers in the same image, to shape the land into something familiar, to reclaim, as far as they could, what the sea had taken. But Tolkien does not write restoration as repetition. What is lost is not simply restored by copying its form. Instead, something quieter happens. The land was empty when they came ashore. No towers waiting for them. No memory lived in the soil. No voice answered when they called the names of what had been. Only wind, only distance, only the long silence after loss. And in that silence, something had to be decided. Not how to rebuild what was gone, but whether anything would be carried forward at all. Elendil stood upon the shore, not as a king crowned, not as a ruler secured in his inheritance, but as a man who had seen his world end, and now faced a future that did not yet exist. Out of the great sea to Middle-earth I am come. In this place I will abide, and my heirs, unto the ending of the world. In the north, Elendil establishes Arnor, a kingdom wide, but less enduring. In the south, his sons, Isildur and Anarion, raise Gondor, a realm of stone and watchfulness, nearer to the shadow that still lingers. 2 kingdoms, not one. Already, the inheritance has changed. What was once whole must now be carried in parts. But this division is not weakness, it is honesty. A broken inheritance cannot be restored by pretending it is unbroken. It must be shaped according to what remains. And so the white tree is planted again, a living echo of Nimloth, the tree saved in the final days of Númenor. Not the same tree, not the same land, but still alive. Time passes, the new realms grow, not as vast as Númenor, not as secure, but real. And yet the shadow has not vanished, because the darkness that corrupted Númenor still remains in Middle-earth. Sauron has returned to power, and now the question becomes unavoidable. What does a king do when the evil that destroyed his world rises again? Elendil could have remained. He could have ruled in peace, guarding what little remained, protecting his people from afar. He had already lost enough. But Tolkien's kings are not defined by preservation alone. They are defined by what they choose to stand against. So Elendil forms an alliance with the Elves, with Gil-galad, the High King of the Noldor in Middle-earth, men and elves together, not in memory of the past, but in defiance of what still remains. The armies gather. They approach Mordor, a land shaped by will, not by gift. And at last, the moment comes. The Dark Lord himself emerges, not as shadow alone, but in form, and Elendil stands before him. We are not given every detail of that moment. Tolkien does not linger in spectacle, but what we are told is enough. Elendil and Gil-galad together confront Sauron, and in that confrontation both are slain. Elendil falls, and beneath him the sword breaks. Narsil, the blade that had been carried across the sea, the symbol of a line that endured the fall of a kingdom, is shattered. It is a stark image. The king lies fallen, the sword lies broken, and yet this is not defeat. Because in that very moment, Sauron is overthrown, his body cast down, his power broken. Victory begins at the moment the king falls. We expect triumph to preserve. We expect victories to secure. But here, victory costs everything. The blade that struck the blow does not survive it. The king who stood against darkness does not live to see its end. Fracture and triumph arrive together. A son steps forward. Isildur stands where his father fell. Before him, the broken sword, the fallen king, the enemy cast down. There is no pause for understanding. Inheritance does not wait. He takes up the hilt shard of Narsil, and with it he cuts the ring from Sauron's hand. It is an act of completion, but not yet of comprehension. because what he receives in that moment is more than victory. He receives the full weight of what his father carried. Grief, responsibility, a broken symbol, a choice not yet understood. So what remains of Elendil? No throne, no long reign, no peaceful end. Instead, a fall, a broken sword, a son left to carry what he could not finish. And yet, Tolkien does not present this as a tragedy alone, because Elendil does not fall in retreat. He does not fall in despair. He falls standing, facing the very darkness that destroyed his world. In the next episode, we turn to Isildur, not simply the man who failed, but the son who inherited more than he could yet bear. Until next time, may you stand where you are called to stand. Carry what has been entrusted to you with humility, and remember that even in failing, it is possible to remain faithful.